All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tortilla Talk. I'm your host, Dylan, and with me today is Nick. Nick, how you doing?
I'm good. Just exhausted, man. It's been a busy week at work. And then we had the Super Bowl last night. So between that and tech and tortillas, I'm a little tired, but that's all right.
Yeah, and also with me today is Dallas. Dallas, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I can't say I'm tired because nothing gets me more excited than seeing the great Patrick Mahomes win another Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. And don't worry,
Was that
we'll get into all that.
Was
We'll
that
get
a dig
into
at me?
Yes.
I just don't care enough.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, yeah, as they kind of alluded to the topics today, obviously coming out of the Super Bowl, that's what we'll be talking today. This is a special Super Bowl edition of Tortilla Talk, so all topics will be super. I know, kind of fun. But first, we'll jump right into it, guys, with the game. So the Chiefs won 25-22 in overtime. I'll kind of start with you, Dallas. We'll do a quick little game recap, but let's start in the first half. Man, it started a little slow, didn't it, there?
Yeah, and it seemed like somebody had oiled up the football with all the fumbles and everything that was going on there. It was sloppy. I think some of the younger players on both sides of both teams, the moment was kind of getting to them. And, I mean, in situations like that, it tends to favor the defense. So, but, yeah, I'm glad it got going in the second half. I think once it got to halftime and the Chiefs were still in it when they had obviously played one of the worst halves of the year. If you're a 49ers fan, I know you must have been pretty nervous.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I'll segue right to Nick after that. Nick, I was watching the game with two people you might know named Mom and Dad. And it was funny. She knew I was rooting for the Chiefs, right? And she kept saying, "Hey, Dylan, they look terrible. They look awful. Like, why are you so confident?" And I just kept telling her, like, hey, if one, Mahomes is inevitable. He will come through in the end. Two, you tell me they look terrible. It's 10-3 at halftime. If you look terrible and you're still within the game, like, you got to feel good about that because it can only go up from there. Do you think that was a motivation point for the team? Like, hey, we played our worst football and we're still in this game. Was that kind of helps you, right, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely, right? It can't get any worse. And, Patrick didn't have his best half, right? So if he's not having his best half and they're only down a touchdown, then you're in good shape. So it really panned out well for them. I was telling my father-in-law, who I was watching the game with, if the Chiefs are only down a score at any point, San Francisco's in trouble. That the only way San Fran was winning that game is if they got up 2 scores or more, and they never did. They were up 10 for a little bit, but just never was going to make it happen. It just reminds you exactly of Tom Brady. If the ball is in his hands, you're done. You're done. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you give Patrick, I think it was like 153 and 2 timeouts, and all he needs.
Oh my God!
It's not, are they going to score? It's, are they going to beat us, or are we going to overtime? It's either are they going to get 3 or are they going to get a touchdown? And they were fortunate to only give him 3, or to only hold him to 3. But Dallas, back to kind of you. I want to get your thoughts on this because I don't think I could say I was right because the outcome was right. All week I kept saying it has to matter that Purdy is the quarterback for the Niners. But I think he played well, so I'm not going to say that I was right on that. But I was right on the flip side of it that he's not Patrick Mahomes, and it matters that he's playing Patrick Mahomes. What did you think of Purdy's performance? Did he do enough to where it's like, hey, he played well enough to win? It's just he faced Patrick, or was the moment too big for him, do you think?
I mean, he definitely didn't play well enough to beat Patrick Mahomes or another elite quarterback. He played well enough to probably beat like 28 of the other NFL teams. But there were just some huge missed moments that, he's got a guy in his face with wide open receivers. He overthrows the zone. Just some plays that the great ones like seem to always make. Yeah. And that's kind of been the story of him all year is he's really good, but he just doesn't make those exceptional plays that would put him in another tier. And ultimately, he didn't lose them the game, but he also missed on some opportunities to win the game for them.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's kind of what separates, the elite from the non-elite. Nick, seems like special teams matters, doesn't it?
That's what they'll tell you. Last thought on Brock Purdy first. I just want to say this. If Pat Mahomes isn't the quarterback of Kansas City, they don't make it to the Super Bowl. There's probably 12 other quarterbacks in the NFL that could have gotten San Francisco to the Super Bowl this year.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean he's bad. It just means that he's not special. And that's all I'll say about Brock Purdy. I was right. Dylan, I'll say it. I was right. Special teams are special, man.
Yeah.
Those field goals mattered. We had a broken record followed by breaking that record.
Yeah.
So these kickers, man, how about that line drive, huh?
I know.
That line drive field goal by Butker, that was big time. But yeah, special teams matters. It kept these teams back and forth. So good to see special teams at the front of the game. Obviously, people probably would want more touchdowns. However, it made for a compelling case. When kickers are making field goals, at least they're not screwing it up.
Yeah, and then missing extra points that, make it a chance to be able to tie the game, right? That's such a huge block. And then, man, I'm telling you, on that punt, like at first everyone, they were mad he's going after the ball, but hey, you have to. It touched his one of his teammates' legs, right? So
at the time, I don't think anyone.
Yeah.
At first, right? No one knew that.
Yeah.
That's just bad luck, man. That's what are you gonna do? And you can yell Peter all day, but just like when you hit a golf ball on the golf course and yell 4, the best thing you can do is just get in the fetal position, right? So that guy didn't stand a chance. It hit him in the calf, and
yeah,
the rest is history, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know how much it affected it, but obviously we had a pretty big injury for the 49ers defense, right, Dallas? I mean, it's just unfortunate to see running onto the field an Achilles injury, right? You think that had a pretty big effect on the game?
I can't say it didn't have any impact, but their defense is loaded with a lot of guys that can also make plays. You've got Fred Warner and Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And you talked about that final drive. Nick Bosa got burned by the same play, that read option that Mahomes ran like 3 times, where he fell for the fake and went after the running back. And it definitely had an impact and real freak injury. Obviously, you don't want to see that in the Super Bowl, but I don't think it would have made a difference in the outcome ultimately. I think Mahomes is going to Mahomes and going to come through and win the game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you 100%. Yeah, the next thing I kind of want to go into, because we keep kind of touching on it repeatedly, the Mahomes aspect of this. So for his legacy, that's already his 3rd Super Bowl, right? And he's 3-1 in Super Bowls. Nick, I'll start with you. Is he entering, if not already before, into that GOAT conversation?
Yeah, big time. And Dylan, you know this better than anyone. Again, being that we're siblings from Massachusetts, and we went to Texas Tech. We love Patrick. We also love Tom. Now it's starting to get a little uncomfortable because Patty's only 28. So this guy's already got 3 Super Bowls. And so I just kind of keep my mouth shut about it until I'm watching the game. Then I'm actively cheering for Pat. And now, after, a couple of days of talking about how he's my quarterback and I was there when he was there and it was awesome, except for losing games 50-55, not his fault. What this guy's doing, man, how do you not cheer for it? No matter if you're a fan of the Patriots or Tom Brady or whoever you think the GOAT is, this guy is just an electric factory. And he just wills his team to victory. That's I think the biggest difference here is when I see Patrick win, it just makes me feel like it was Patrick, only Patrick. And I know they have a good defense. I know that. But I know Travis Kelce. It just feels a little different where Tom had It just always seemed like Tom maybe had a little, and I know someone's going to argue with me, but a little more. But Patrick, man, that guy just puts it on his shoulders, and he does it with his feet, does it with his arm, does it with whatever. So he's in the conversation for sure.
I mean, Nick, it might be more impressive that Tom could do it without legs. But
That's what I'm going to tell myself. But then once Pat's in the Super Bowl again, then I'm cheering for Pat, and then it's just a weird. I feel weird.
Well, so it's crazy to kind of. I mean, these are things you don't see in lifetimes, right? But thinking about it, I mean, Patrick has 3 this early, but then you look at Tom. Look how early Tom got his 3, and then he didn't win again until the Seahawks Super Bowl, right? So it's crazy how long those gaps can be and how hard it is to win in the NFL. Dallas, is he? I'm sure he is for you, Dallas, but he's in your GOAT conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has to be. I think this game, he goes past guys like Peyton Manning.
That's your hero.
Yeah, I'm a big Peyton Manning. My dad went to Tennessee, as we know. So I like Peyton, but he didn't win 3 Super Bowls. He didn't perform like this in the playoffs when it mattered. I think it's 3 guys at this point. I think it's Brady, Montana, Mahomes. I think you can personally, I'd put Mahomes over Montana, even though he has 1 less Super Bowl. But it's the way he's doing this. It reminds you a lot of Brady in that second trio of championships in New England, where he's doing it with his mind. He's doing it. Mahomes obviously has the legs aspect, but he takes what the defense gives him, knows when to step up and make clutch plays, and he doesn't need like all the weapons that a lot of the guys around the league have at wide receiver or at tight end. They both had great tight ends, but I mean, he is that offense. They go as he goes, and it's interesting when you look at Brady's early career, because a lot of people say it was the defense that carried him, and obviously it was a different time in the league where defense played differently. But I think Mahomes is just so advanced, like on the mental side of things. This is when he should be rounding into like his prime, and he's already got 3 championships.
Yikes.
So it'll be interesting to see what I can't imagine being a fan of another AFC team outside of New England or the Chiefs, because you're going to have like 40 straight years of just like
loser.
Well, like the poor Bills. I mean, those fans have been tortured for 30 years, and now you've got Mahomes, who's probably going to do this for at least another decade. It's got to be tough for the rest of the NFL, because he's only getting better and he's only learning how to play the position at a higher level. So yeah, I don't know how he can't be on the GOAT conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree. And shout out Scott. I'm sorry you had to listen to your son, Peyton Manning like that. I know you watch and you like the show. Yeah, I'm sorry that your son had to disappoint you like that.
Hate to see it.
I know you hate to see it. But shout out Scott. We still like Peyton, but Dallas is just speaking the truth. But Nick, let's go on to the duo, since every Batman has his Robin, or sometimes you don't even know who Batman or Robin is. But the Reed and Mahomes legacy together. I mean, that duo now has to be up there in the GOAT status as well, right? If you're telling me Mahomes is, I mean, Reed's been there alongside of him. It's funny. We used to think Reed was the guy who couldn't manage a clock and win a big game, and now he has 3 with Mahomes, right?
I mean, he almost screwed up the clock on that final drive. I think he could have probably managed those timeouts a little bit better. Maybe that game didn't need to go to overtime. I'm just saying, look, it ended well for him, but in my head, I'm kind of like, man, maybe not the best. No, people are going to say, if you're going to call Belichick the GOAT, then you got to say Andy Reid's starting to climb that ladder. I don't think so. I like Andy Reid. It just feels more like Pat to me. That's how it feels. And I know, guess what? You can't quantify feelings, right? You can't tell me that I can or can't feel that way. To me, it just feels like this is more Pat, whereas watching the Patriots my whole life. Look, I get it. I know what's happened the last few years, but it felt more like a team effort with Tom and Bill. Here, it just feels like, hey, give Pat the ball, see what he can do if he needs to. You know what it might be? I just saying this out loud. I do believe the scrambling aspect of it, I think, just makes my dumb brain think that like Patrick is can be more off the script. Whereas Tom, maneuvered in the pocket, but he ain't scrambling very far. Right. So I think to me, that's why it feels more less than GOAT status for coaches.
Yeah. What do you think of the duo, Dallas? You think they're up there for some of the best?
Yeah, I for sure think so. It's interesting when you look at Belichick. Obviously, he hasn't had a ton of success outside of when Brady was the quarterback there. But again, it's hard to say when he was the quarterback for 20 plus years. It's to take all of that from him and just look at the beginning and ends of his career. But obviously, Andy Reid had a good bit of success before Mahomes was there at the Chiefs, and then in Philadelphia getting to a Super Bowl. It takes, though, I think we saw it once Brady left to the Bucs. In sports, players have to make plays. Like, you can have the best coach in the world on the sidelines, but especially in football, if you don't have a top 5 quarterback, it's hard to win championships. And I think it will always just matter more who's at quarterback than who has the headset.
Yeah, no, to your point. I think you're 100% right. Like, you can prepare as much as you want, but someone has to be on the field making those plays. So lastly, I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit because we've kind of already talked about the dynasty. It is a dynasty for sure at this point. It seems like it's going to continue, but I want to know what that looks like to you guys. Nick, when it's all said and done, how many Super Bowls does Mahomes walk away with?
As many as he wants. What do you do? I mean, how do you answer that? He just wins. I haven't seen him lose. So what kind of question is that?
You would have said the same about Brady. When he won the first 3, you would have thought he would have won 100 if you're going off that logic.
But I would have said the same thing. So I'm going to say the same thing. So when they start losing, then I'll change my tune. But right now, 10, 8, 10, 8, maybe. I don't know.
So you think he's going to be the record holder?
Don't let me answer that.
I think the way he gets less than 5, honestly.
Okay.
Because, I mean, these last 2 years, but I've heard people say, like, this was the time to get the Chiefs. Mahomes is, like, accounting for a huge percentage of the cap. They don't have wide receivers. The defense was really young last year. They've taken a huge step forward this year, obviously. But they're really set up for success as his, he took a really smart deal in going for 10 years. Towards the end of that, they're going to be able to load up with a ton of weapons around him. Even starting next year, the cap will get a little lighter. So I don't see any way he gets less than 5. One aspect that's different from the Brady era is there's only one bye now for each conference. Brady, there were a few times where he would get the bye being the second place team in the conference. You've got to be number 1 now. Winning that extra game, I know it can take a lot out of a team. Obviously, this route to the Super Bowl was probably the hardest anyone's ever gone through. And it'll be difficult. The AFC's loaded with a ton of quarterback talent. You got Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I don't know if you want to throw Tua in there or not, but the Dolphins are pretty good. And they're obviously the team to beat, but
yeah,
I don't see how at 28 this trajectory, assuming the band stays together and Reed doesn't retire, how he doesn't get at least 5.
Yeah, no, it's scary to think about if all stays healthy and right. What could happen? But
Here's what I'll tell you: the AFC is really loaded with teams that love to lose to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And remember, so we've talked about the winners, but for every winner there is a loser, right? So we'll move on to the next team. We'll start with Shanahan, guys. Kyle can't win the big game, it seems like. Nick, I mean, I'll start with you. He's already lost 2 Super Bowls. They lost to the Eagles that previous year when you really thought they should have made it. And then, of course, he's famous for being the offensive coordinator who couldn't manage the end of the 28-3 lead in a Super Bowl for the Falcons. Nick, can Shanahan not manage a big game? I mean, does he just get caught in the moment?
No, I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's that big. People are going to make it a big deal.
Yeah.
We're going to hear about it. We're going to hear about it till he wins one. Once you get there, there's a little bit of luck involved. Again, the ball hitting that guy's calf. I mean, come on, right? There's a little bit of luck there. So we'll see what happens with him. I hope he doesn't pay too much attention to the news because it's going to be pretty bad for a little while. But he'll get to the Super Bowl again. He'll get another chance, and eventually he will win one. So he's a good coach.
Yeah, and I like what you said there because until he does win it, every little thing is going to be a huge thing. It's what people are going to talk about. Dallas, I'll jump to you with that in mind. The overtime decision. Say if to Nick's point, if Shanahan was a Super Bowl winner and he had a track record of doing well in these big games, maybe we think we give him benefit of the doubt, kind of like Belichick thought, like, oh, he has a reason. We know why he's doing this. What do you think of that overtime decision, Dallas?
So I heard him say they did that so that they would get the ball third. So if they both score field goals or both score touchdowns, they would get the ball and only have to score a field goal. I think that's just insane with the way the fourth quarter had gone, like where Pat and the Chiefs had looked like they were really rolling and had figured out the defense. I think you really want to know what you want to do. It's crazy to give Pat Mahomes 4 downs on a drive to go down to win the game. I'd assume he's a big analytics guy. I don't know where that comes into it, but I would think Patrick Mahomes, who with 4 downs, is more dangerous than Patrick Mahomes with 3 downs.
Yep.
Put that into your algorithms.
No, and that's 100% true because when you say analytics and you look into it, you have to think analytically. You think they always get 4 downs, but literally they don't, right? Because you're punting on 4th down every time. To your point, Patrick Mahomes is literally going to use every down because he has to, and you avoided that if you went the other way. And I guess he's saying if he gets the ball third, you're assuming at that point both teams are scoring. It's like you have a really good defense, man.
You're giving up. Yeah, you're like, yeah, we're going to give up points.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what you're saying when you say that, and you're assuming you're going to get a touchdown. Okay, cool, that's awesome. But then you're kind of just like, oh well, they're going to score 2, and I'll get the ball third. It's like I don't know, man. I mean,
devil's advocate here, boys.
Yeah.
Do we think that he maybe, as like everyone else, was not thinking about what the overtime rules were now, and he just screwed up, and then he had to make up an excuse?
So I heard in the post-game press conferences that they didn't go over the overtime rules heading into this week. And if you compare that to all the Chiefs players said that they'd been hammering these new overtime rules for the playoffs and the Super Bowl since the offseason. So, I mean, it's little things like that that can really make a difference in the season. I'm sure that, I mean, there's a million guys on staff there. They've got to know what they want to do, and I would be really surprised if a guy like Shanahan had glossed over a detail like that over what your decision would be if this goes to overtime, especially because the first Super Bowl he was in went to overtime, or as a head coach went to overtime that they lost. So yeah, it was a horrible mistake, and I doubt he ever makes that again if he's in the same situation. But
Yeah.
Well, then, then here's what I'll say about Kyle Shanahan. That guy needs to get out of his own head because he's thinking way too much.
yeah,
Well, we can get the ball third.
Yeah.
Like, all right, dude. Like, and sometimes people simplify it, but I do think it's like playing a video game. Like, just dumb it down for me. Because thinking about the third time you're going to get the ball, like, that's loser talk.
Yeah. And I guess before I kind of make my point, Dallas, that first Super Bowl loss you were talking about where it went to overtime, was the score in that game 28-3?
I believe so.
Just wanted to check.
Yeah.
But yeah, and those are the little things. And that's kind of the point I want to make, because the Chiefs, you just said it. They were talking about all season long. I mean, for me and Nick, being Patriots fans our whole lives, there was no team that knew the rule book better and would use it to their advantage than the Patriots. Like that, I think it was the Deflategate year. The thing that we got before we played Indy, the thing that got the Ravens was so mad was we knew the rule about who could report as ineligible and where you could use them. And we played 4 down linemen the whole game, with Vereen being the, fifth lineman being ineligible and everyone thinking he's a receiver. And they, Harbaugh cried to the league and said, oh, this is illegal. And I think it was Brady that came out, or somebody, it might have been Belichick or Brady. One of them just said, hey, it's legal, read the rule book. Now, I mean, it's when you are that dialed in, you're going to be successful, because those are the little things. You might never need it. It might not come up. You might not ever play in a Super Bowl overtime, but you did. And look who the team that was poised, calm, knew exactly what to do, and held their own. It just shows, like, that's coaching, in my opinion. So Nick's right. Like, you got to get out of your own head. And Dallas, you're right. Like, the team that prepared for it showed up and was ready to do it. But that's kind of all I'll get on with them. They still seem to have a talented team. And to the point, yeah, he gets in his own head a little bit, but they'll probably still be back in a similar position where they have the talent to maybe go back again. But that's all I got for the game, guys. I want to move on to some of the auxiliary parts of the game. The halftime show.
Electric.
We're all Usher guys, I would imagine, right? I'll start with you, Nick. You already said electric. What were your opinions on that show? You
Electric. Electric. You know what it reminded me of? Reminded me of 6th grade. My girlfriend, Olivia, singing to her, My Boo. It was amazing. It was amazing. Those were good times. All right? Loved it.
Yeah.
Lil Jon, you know what I did? You know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Lil Jon got out on stage right there singing, Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. If Usher and Lil Jon are on stage, that means, and as soon as I said that and turned my head, Ludacris coming out there jamming. It was amazing. So couldn't have been better. I was kicking myself in the butt because I was in Vegas. You boys know I like to gamble. I go to Vegas frequently. I didn't go see Usher when he had his residency, and now that's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
My one other critique: they started to play the song "Bad Girl," but didn't play it.
I know. That was on the part, right? I think for a little bit. I can't remember what part that was, but yeah, I was getting excited for that. They even did a little bit of Confessions part 2.
Yes, they did. And here's what I'm going to tell you too. My granny, my wife's grandmother, was asking, "Hey, when am I going to see some nipples?" She said, "When's he going to take his shirt off?" This is all true. And lo and behold, he took that shirt off, and he is 45 years old. Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
Is he the best 45-year-old roller skater?
Oh, I was going to say the same thing. The rollerblades?
I don't know.
Sorry, roller skates. Roller skates. They were not blades.
Yeah.
Dallas, I don't want to see that Venn diagram, because there's Usher. Then I think the other side of that Venn diagram is probably not a good population of people.
Yeah, probably.
Boys, electric. It was great. It was great. It was everything we needed it to be. One of you guys, it was either Dylan. I think Dylan said it. Dylan, you texted the group and you said, If America was trying to get the left and the right back together and figure this thing out, it can be Usher, Lil Jon, and Ludacris.
Yeah, that's how you unite everyone. It brings everyone back, a few years. Dallas,
Yep.
was that you live in the childhood?
Yeah, and well, we're getting old when all of the Super Bowl halftime shows are catered for our age group.
I know.
So, that's a little sad. Like, you got all these guys that were big, like when we were growing up, coming back to the Super Bowl.
Same thing in the grocery store.
Well, yeah. Yeah, electric. Alicia Keys coming out there. They're interesting situation. I think Usher wanted a little bit of that, and before he snapped out of it, but
Woke up.
but we almost had another Janet Jackson situation. Yeah, it was electric. I'm not a big halftime guy, but anytime you get some names like Usher, Ludacris, and Lil Jon on the stage, I'll tune in.
I mean, I'll say, hey, boys, I'll say yeah to that.
What?
Okay.
What? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, it was definitely a good a good trip. But speaking of a lot of talent and a lot of good singing talent in particular.
Finally.
I know.
Great.
I had to end the show with this, guys. So we'll get on the Taylor Swift train first before we get into what we think about it.
Choo choo.
Nick, she brought quite the entourage with her, didn't she?
I'll tell you what, dude, anytime you get T Swift and Blake Lively, and Blake's been going to the games with her, I didn't recognize half the people. I'm not like a massive pop culture guy, but they just seemed famous. And then she chugged a beer.
Yeah. I know.
She gave the people what they wanted.
Like a performer should.
That's right.
Yeah, Dallas, I know you're big into Taylor Swift, aren't you? I mean, you had to love the whole chugging the beer, and I'm sure you've been a big fan of the Chiefs all year long.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to watch all of the hullabaloo about Taylor Swift, but I don't know. I get kind of a kick out of her, like, just losing her mind with, like, the slightest plays, because I can relate so much to it, because I'm a complete lunatic watching football games or any sporting event. And, I mean, she seems to have bought in, man. She's having a good time, chugging beers. Oh, my gosh, I'm getting a
Oh, my God. He disappeared.
Okay, we lost you, Dallas. We lost you. Okay, we got him back.
He's back. Me to stop talking about Taylor Swift. It was all of that. I think she was on screen, they said, for 56 seconds. I don't know who's counting that, but
a lot of people in Vegas, Dallas.
What was the prop bet for that? Do we know?
Probably a minute or less, probably a minute or more, or something like that.
The biggest one I saw going around was over under 5.5 or 6, depending where times that she is shown during the game.
Okay, so not total screen time, but just.
Did that hit? That feels like it hit.
It hit. I believe it did, because they showed her a lot towards the end. Now, it didn't look like it was going to in the first half, because Kelsey did not do a thing in the first half. But in the second half, it was nonstop Taylor. I think.
Are you saying Taylor has the clutch gene?
I think you know what I think, Nick.
Getting back.
CBS is sitting there going, man, we had a little slow first half. We're going to throw Usher out there. People are going to get excited. And then after that, we're going to throw Taylor on the screen repeatedly. Now everyone's still involved. I think they did what they had to. Yeah, got to do what you got to do for the viewers. But yeah, so to that point, I mean, I kind of just said it a little bit. Do you guys think they overdid it with the Taylor this game, or did it feel?
No.
I mean, it didn't take away from the game, right?
No, it doesn't take away from it, dude. It's fun, man. People want to see famous people at the Super Bowl. That's part of what they do. In fact, when they were showing Taylor and Blake Lively, I was like, "Where's Ryan?" I didn't see Ryan. I didn't see Deadpool. So it's a good thing. It's fun. People that get mad about that need to chill. Oh, it's taken away from the game. I didn't miss a play.
Yeah. Dallas,
so
what do you think?
between plays. I don't know why people are. I mean, do we need Tony Romo ranting about some nonsense for another 15 seconds?
I can't stand Tony Romo. And I'm glad you said that, Dallas, because I want to say one thing about him. When you were talking about how Nick Bosa messed up some plays and Patrick got around him and ran like in the QB runs, the design run plays,
Yeah.
you didn't hear him say a thing. But as soon as Nick Bosa, stays with Patrick and doesn't let him get to the outside, he's like, Nick Bosa is just, it's perfect, blah, blah, blah. And not just that, he starts talking about, you could tell he wants to be the guy that was right about what's his name? Brock Purdy. Because he was just all on Brock Purdy all night. Like, yeah. Tony's out. Tom is coming to save us. I know it's on Fox, but Tom is coming to save us this year.
I mean, I think Tony is almost comedic relief though at this point. I kind of like it because it was funny. My favorite part, fourth quarter, the 49ers kept sending, or they sent pressure, I think, at some point to stop Mahomes on a third or fourth down, right? And you hear Tony before the play. He's like, hey, they're giving a pressure look. They're going to back out. And then they sent the pressure, and Tony goes, oh, I wouldn't have done that. And then you have Mahomes throw one over the middle for a first down. It was hilarious because right as it snapped, you just, oh, I wouldn't have done that. So you
I must have missed that one because that is pretty funny.
Yeah. So you do get those, but then you also get the, you've seen it.
He tries to do a little too much sometimes, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of all we have for today, guys. There's your Super Bowl recap. Covered everything from the game to Usher to Taylor to, of course, Tony Romo. But thank you guys for watching today. This is Tech and Tortillas. I want to say that slow because of Tech letter N Tortillas on all socials. Please follow us. And then, hey, make sure you give Nick a follow as well. Nick, shout out your social because I know you do some Bachelor talk, don't you?
Yes. Dylan, thank you. Yes, I just started a couple of days ago, and it's actually going pretty decently on TikTok, and I'm starting to tweet about it. It's Nikki Bachelor Talk on TikTok, and it's still Nick at Tech and Tortillas, but I am going to change it over to Nikki Bachelor Talk. We're just talking things Bachelors. I've never watched the show before. This is my first time. I'm all caught up. I'm ready to watch tonight before the Tech game, of course. But it's just a fun way for to hear a guy's perspective on these young ladies and where they're going. Hey, right now it's Maria versus Sydney, baby, and I'm all here for it. So, Nikki Bachelor Talk. Look it up on TikTok.
All right. Well, there we go. That's all we have today for Tortilla Talk. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, guns up.
Wreck 'em, beat Kansas.
Go Adidas.
All right. There we go, guys.